What up, though? Welcome back. Thank you. So today we're going to get straight into the conversation. I think it's important after having multiple conversations, I always do with people in my circle and, going on long runs and workouts and reassessing my own process in life. And I think it's important for us to understand we must give ourselves grace along our journeys, along our paths of pursuit. Because the reality is that along this marathon, this journey that we take, there's a lot of decisions, a lot of things that need to get accomplished, need to be done that knowingly we know need to be put in place, or instituted, or whatever it may be. Actions need to happen that we know we need to take in order to achieve the outcome that we have already set for ourselves with our higher power within us, and conversations we have to reach our purpose and all that, right? But along this journey, because we are human, because we are fallible, because we're not perfect, we have to be able to be aware of moments when we need to give ourselves the grace necessary in order to take a moment to reflect, make the course correction necessary, and then move on to the next thing. I am just as guilty as anybody is of making what I think to be the seemingly right decision for myself in the moment, also for what I think someone else may need, and then reflecting on it and saying it may not have been the best move that I wanted to make or the best move that I should have made at that present time. And what I learned, what I'm learning is we have to take the necessary moment to give the grace necessary to reflect, to not beat yourself up, to accept the responsibility for whatever it is you did or did not do, sit in it for a moment so you can learn from it, and then move on in the fashion that you need to, which is hopefully in the better direction because you have taken a moment and the time to sit in whatever the situation may be, whether you cause it or not. Especially if you cause it, you must be able to sit there and think about it and figure out how to not avoid the next moment, but be prepared to better deliver on the next moment that is given because life is another one of those. So it will be cyclical, will, present itself in different forms and different fashions again, but it will present itself. And the best thing that we want to be able to do is to say, I've learned, I've seen this before. I know what I did before that wasn't in best interest, even though the intentionality was, it still didn't come out, the outcome to be in the best intention or the best actionable steps for everyone involved. So let me do better this upcoming time around, right? Reason why I'm bringing this to you is because I believe we waste so much excess time. I've said this before and I say it again. Man, woman suffers more in their mind than they do in reality. We always are going to linger over the hurt, pain, destruction, or seemingly hurt, pain, or destruction, or frustration that we may have caused someone else, especially when we are intuitive and we are, at a level of, because we're doing our third principle, talking with our higher power self, right? And talking with the higher power within us. You're going to have moments, if you are empathetic and human, where you feel you've messed that up, right? For lack of a better term, or another vernacular, you messed that up, right? And so you'll suffer in it longer than need be because you're hurt, you're emotional, you are feeling like, well, what if I could amend or you know correct that circumstance? But what you have to understand is, again, give yourself the grace that what has transpired has been meant to transpire, was already set in motion. You have to now give yourself the grace to learn from it, like I've already stated, and allow yourself to grow from it, but not linger in the suffering of it, because in that, that's where either the building blocks of betterment are going to be placed, or the building blocks of pain, hurt, anguish, trauma, all these other things that can be built too. and we don't want that to happen, right? Regret, um, frustration, anger towards, and then misaligning what happened because now we need to soothe ourselves, soothe ourselves. So we then start to change the perception of what actually happened in order to suit our emotional state to say, well, this is why, right? So all these things can be avoided if we accept the fact by giving yourself the grace necessary to sit in it, learn from it, grow from it, accept what you need to accept from it, your responsibility, the other party's responsibility, whatever it may be, but the truth of it, and then learn from it that way. The reason why I say grace, because when you look up the word grace, right? Not so much from the biblical side, but just from what the word means. It's a part of it that says in the actual Webster's definition, refinement of movement, right? And I like that because refinement of movement. When you look up what refinement is, and we already know what movement is, action or physical, action and motion, right? But when we look at what refinement is, it's actually what getting away or getting rid of elements or things that are not suitable for something to have stability or growth, right? So refinement of movement, give yourself the grace, refine, get rid of the things that, you either caused or didn't cause or was making you feel like you want to be in that suffer state. Refine it, get rid of those elements, get rid of those things, the thought, the energy, the woe is me, self-pity, the reflecting on the good times, right? The bitterness that could ensue or fester or lay seeds. You want to get rid of all that, refine it, and then movement. Get into the activity of the refined betterments of yourself, the better stage of yourself, and get back into the activity necessary, not activity to sweep it under the rug, what we used to do, which we all have grown from. If you become a alcoholic because you're trying to again take action on uh, letting the pain go away through alcoholism, or if you are a druggie of some kind, druggie meaning you're taking drugs, to uh, self-soothe the pain. Not that type of action, because again, we're talking about refinement, right? We're talking about taking the proper action of doing your step three, your meditations, doing your step two, your gratitude, right? Consistently taking the physical action of going to exercise to release the trauma and to put it into the building of oneself, physically and then lungs and then emotionally, right? We are taking care of the spiritual side because you're sitting down with your higher power on your step three, right? So, eating healthy, not going to junk food on step four, right? Making sure you're eating healthy. These are the refined movements that when you implement these, because you're refining, you're bettering yourself, you're accepting the journey, accepting this particular area where you weren't fully prepared, how you thought you may have been prepared. And again, you're giving yourself the grace because you thought you were prepared and you weren't, right? You thought you had invested well, you didn't. You thought you had set up a fail-safe business that could stand the test of time, and unfortunately, you see that it's not doing that, right? And you see the writing on the wall. All these things are elements of, okay, give yourself the grace of you took the action on these things, didn't come out the way you intended. You start a relationship that you thought was going to, be fruitful, and you really cared about the person, but because of differences, you had to break up, right? You didn't mean to hurt the person, but you realize this may not be what you want, right? That type of thing. And it may be something that you really want, but you're not ready yet because you're scared. But whatever it may be, you have to give yourself the grace, refine the movement, and then get back into the movement and the action of doing the right things. This is just a cyclical thing that you have to do along every single point on your journey, even the things that you seemingly did right, right? You have to give yourself grace and refine those things to say, okay, this did work well. This did give me happiness. This did give me, the money I wanted, because I did take time to invest properly. I got to repeat that movement, refine it again, and I got to do it again, right? Same thing. Or the business you started, sent out the proper emails, made the proper contacts, followed up just right, making sure you were direct but not, forceful. You did everything in communication that allowed for the re-sign, the contracts, and all that. You give yourself the grace, again, refinement of, okay, this went well. Don't allow the ego to take over and say, well, I just understand it all now. I got this locked in now. Give yourself the grace necessary, refine it, and then take the proper movement to continue in the proper action steps that will bring the business like you want. Or if you fell in love, you did the right thing by courting the young man, in your own way, ladies, or the men. I think we should always be the one courting. If I'm a little old school in that. But, if you courted the lady right, or, you did right to get the young man that you wanted, ladies, and, the relationship is going well for 6, 8 months, again, give yourself the grace necessary to refine the right things you're doing. Also, to refine the things that, might be little red flags or the differences that you may have. Give yourself the grace to be able to address those things so you can sustain the quality of the relationship, as well as not allow it to drop too low when things are a little shaky and a little bit, misaligned as far as how you two want to operate, right? But giving yourself the grace is one of the most important things I believe that we can do as we proceed on our purposeful paths of trying to manifest and obtain the tangible successes in all facets of our life that we have set for ourselves. Because along each lane, whether it's financial, whether it's career, whether it's relationship, whether it's family relationship, whether it's love of a romantic relationship, these are, whether it's emotional, spiritual growth, um, there's going to be moments within each parts of these journeys where, again, the grace has to be given. The understanding that perfection is elusive, it's not even a real thing. But so therefore, that means there's going to be moments where your attempts to make something work well, even when we're aligned with our higher self and our higher power, we know we're not the ones making it happen. I understand that, but we still are human, and there's going to be elements where, in moments, just factual, just no matter how, I don't care how evolved you may be, you're still going to do something that will knock you off the vision of the course, or physically knock you off the course or the path of whatever it is you're trying to do. And in that moment, that's the grace you have to give to yourself, the awareness, the refinement of movement to yourself. So therefore you can get back on the path, get back on the vision, and be aligned with the destination that you are looking to, like I said, manifest and make tangible. But don't linger in the frustration. Don't linger in the anger, the bitterness, the sadness, or whatever the feelings that you feel that are arising that are not on the proper vibration level to help you move forward in the proper refinement process and the expediency, relative expediency necessary to allow you to continue moving forward without the delay of, time wasted in suffering that we cause for ourselves, right? Again, if it's this situation where refinement is you need to go to therapy, or you need to get counseling, or whatever it may be, or you need to get different mentors, do that. That's all part of the refinement movement process that will help you expeditiously. And when I say expediently or expeditiously, or fast, that's relative, because again, it's not about the quickness of it. Like I said, this is a marathon, shout out Nips, right? Uh, but when you understand this is a life process, it's a life journey. It's cyclical. It's not get there quick. It's not get there fast, but it's get there efficiently and effectively. So therefore, you can reach the maturation of the talent that you're trying to unfold, the light you're trying to continue to illuminate to the world. You want it to be something that sustains the illumination, the glow, right? That has stick to itiveness, and you deliver it within a reasonable amount of time within your journey, especially if you're aware of the work you're putting in, and you owe yourself that. You don't, I think again, when you give yourself the grace and we're aware, it doesn't have to be a thing where this is just something that we, as we get older, if we're blessed to have the longevity of life, right? It's not just, wait till you're in your latter years. The example that I'm giving right now as far as time, the beautiful thing about sports, you get to see it in real time. Cristiano Ronaldo, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, that type of person, Kobe Bryant. You get a chance to see in real time the superstar or the excellence within the craft. If they're true to the craft, like a LeBron or Jordan was, you get a chance to see their evolution. And it's a beautiful thing what we're seeing right now in the sports realm from a LeBron, because he has the longest longevity in the pro ranks, especially in basketball, specifically, just like we just saw in Tom Brady, right? Before he retired. But to see sustained excellence, but he was also excellent at a young age, right? And he was one of the outliers who was able to, again, he's put in the work. I'm not discounting that, because you can't do what he's done without putting in the work to the level that he's done it, as well as for longevity. But the piece that I think people tend to forget, whether you like him or not, just look at the reality of sustained excellence. But he also was excellent when he was younger. So the beauty of a prodigy, or in music, a pianist that starts at like age 6 and just is just this prodigy. And she comes out, and she's doing it at 30 and 40 and 70 years of age, still just playing this beautiful masterpiece of melody and music and that. But the beauty is they were able to tap into their excellence early on and block out the white noise, but they focus so much on their craft. But along the journey, you get a chance to see the prodigy at 8 all the way to 70, whenever she passes away, or 80, years of age, and play that piano magnificently, teach people, hold orchestra events, and, has put together, uh, concertos and different, art artworks with different artists and different genres and different music. But that beauty of sustainability, right? Because of length of young to old, in LeBron's case, young to, 23 plus years of the airing of this, still playing professional sports, which is a demand on the body that most people can't sustain for past 15 years, which is that used to be long, right? But now he's eclipsed that, right? What I'm saying is, to be able to tap into your excellence and sustain at an early age, and sustain a certain level of deliverable of your excellence, whatever your particular talent and your particular gift is to the world, there has to be a level of grace given at each juncture, because you want to revitalize yourself in the moment. Otherwise, if you don't, it's going to extract so much out of you that it becomes virtually impossible to sustain or even to achieve the ultimate vision of success you have for yourself, because that energy is necessary to fuel you, especially when things get hard, because they just are. In LeBron's case, for the most public thing that we know or whatever, he had 7 years in his early career, 8 years, 7, 8 years in the early career where he wasn't a champion, right? In Cleveland, and he left and he made this decision, and people hated him and lamented him for, how he did the decision. So in his personal life, I'm sure he had plenty of moments, even though he's trying to block out the noise, but I'm still sure he still heard it. And there's moments of, he could beat himself up, right? And then beating himself up, he still doesn't obtain and sustain at that moment. He's still the best player in the world. He's just doing things that most people don't agree with, but it's not about what they agree with. He has to be okay with himself. And so he was able to show the intellectual and the spiritual stability and fortitude to sustain his performance, even while moving to Miami, losing to Dallas in the finals. And that was a big moment when people were like, well, you're supposed to win 4, 5, 6, 7. You said that, right? But the mental ability and the spiritual ability to be able to sustain one's excellence performance at a high level, even when he was in those cases the one who messed it up for him, right? And of course, public eye and everybody looking are going to, they're going to denigrate, they're going to tear you down. So I always just am impressed with his delivery to himself on giving himself the grace, but then refining movement, delivering still excellence to his craft by locking himself in the gym, working on his skill set, getting better, adding things to his repertoire, even though he's the best in the game at that time, right? But allowing himself to position himself where he needed to position himself in order to be the success he wanted to be and needed to be, right? So sorry, this is film, in my villa, so people may come by. So I just say to you guys, grace is so important. It's necessary in order for you to sustain your energy level, but also give yourself what you need in order to continue fighting and building yourself to obtain your excellence of whatever it is you say you want to obtain for you. All right. But grace is important. It gives you everything you need in order to continue on your journey, especially when things get a little tough, whether you cause them or not, because it's going to happen. But give yourself that grace, refine the movement, and you'll be just fine. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.